let's link up with Krysta on the FYX. She's a wellness coach with a focus on mental well-being and physical strength.
All right, y'all, what's up? It is Krysta. I am back. If you are listening to this live, which people will not be, it is November 18th. I am with my guy, Chris Wilson. This is a blast from the past of an interview, and I am super excited to, just to reconnect with Chris by way of introduction, and I will give him the floor in just a second. But Chris came into my life at a time when I just moved to Charlotte. I did not know like any friends, anything like that. I think I had just broken up with a boyfriend, I'm pretty sure. Or it was like, yeah, I had. And the person who I was dating at the time wanted me to have like nothing to do with fitness. I don't even know if you know this about me, but I'll share it with you. So he was very controlling in like what I did and where I went. And the gym was not a place that he wanted me to go. So I kind of struggled to figure out like what type of community in terms of fitness I wanted to be a part of when I moved here. And don't know if you remember him, but Alvin Robinson is the reason why I came to Burn Boot Camp.
Yeah,
I met him.
Alvin.
Yeah, I met him at the Y, and he saw me working out. We went to Chuck's class together. My guy Chuck Walker, who's my personal trainer, always will be the number one guy. And he said to me, he's like, "You got to come to this place, Burn Boot Camp." And I Googled it, and I was like, this shit's for moms. It can't be hard. And I think that's most people's reaction. And then I decided to go. It was free on Saturdays at the time. It's not anymore. I don't know if you knew that, but they took that away. And I walk in and I see you standing at the front of the room and I'm like, shit, this dude's going to fuck me up. And Chris is a former pro basketball player. I will let him share this part of his story because it's a pretty crazy journey, but I think you've learned a lot from that experience. Played at St. Joe's. What year did you graduate from there?
2015.
Okay, 2015. So year above me. Graduated from there. And then did you immediately go right overseas to play basketball?
I did.
Okay, so he immediately went overseas to play basketball. I will let him take the baton from there. But basically, he was hands down to this day. And look, I've tried a lot of workouts and I'm going to gas you up when I say this, but I stand by the statement. You're one of the best trainers that I've ever trained with. Like honored to have trained with you because you taught me so much of what I know about being a coach. There's probably phrases that you said to me that I subconsciously have repeated on microphones more times than I can count. And I don't think I ever got the chance to thank you because we went separate ways in a really abrupt matter of time and beyond anyone's control and had nothing to do with the two of us. But you're awesome and you've changed a lot of lives. And I mean it. I know like when I wound up coaching at Burn Elizabeth right after Chris was no longer part of the team. And like, I was honestly kind of devastated by that to not be able to have the chance to collaborate together. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that like, I just wanted to soak up all the knowledge that you had gained in the time that you were there and just like your mental approach to workouts. Like, forget programming. You're great at that. The workouts were always interesting. They're always hard as hell. You were great at matching people up based on fitness ability. I remember one time I took 2 of your camps in a row and I thought I wasn't going to be able to move my arms for 3 days. Like I have vivid memories of, it was like a tripod workout and I was sitting on the ledge of the front of Burn Elizabeth and you had passed me a set of dumbbells for either a chest press. I think it was a chest press, but it might've been like an Arnold or an overhead. And you made me go heavier and you're like, come on, you got 2 more reps. And I'm like, I literally don't. I've done this camp twice. And you're like, nah, you got 2 more. And I did it. And like, it was that type of training that I knew I wanted to institute with my clients when I had that opportunity. So such a like light of positivity and just like have such a respect for what you were able to do there in a really short amount of time. And just know that like you left a pretty big legacy and huge shoes to fill. You're welcome. Huge shoes to fill behind. So all that said, give me like, I always pitch this to my interviews this way. Like if you had 45 seconds, the classic elevator pitch, who is Chris Wilson? He's changed quite a bit, I think, in the last 2 years. So maybe let's do it in a 2-parter. Tell me who Chris Wilson was when I first met him because he got me hooked on Burn Boot Camp. And then tell me who Chris Wilson is today because you're definitely a different person. And I picked that up on, I haven't seen you in 2 years. We've been together for maybe 20 minutes and I get a vibe and it's a good one. It's changed for the better, but let's hear it.
Thank you. the Chris Wilson who you met in 2017 was all about like passion and drive. There was no such thing as no. And so the type of energy that I had in terms of fitness literally saved my life, and it gave me a start in a world outside of sports. So I poured my all into it, and not only did I pour my all into gaining the knowledge, embodying my philosophies, but I wanted people to approach workouts with the same level of intensity, focus, and passion that I did, regardless of what fitness level that they were on. So I really enjoyed empowering people, and fitness is a great way to help a person transform their self-image. And so whenever you met me, that's what I was, that's all it was. It was like, you can be whatever you want to be in this world once you earn your own respect. And the gym's a great place for people to find
I
themselves.
like that.
Yeah.
So now let's speed up already 3 years later, which is nuts.
I know.
It's been a long time, and a lot can change in a year. I've definitely seen that in my own life, and I know you've seen that in yours. So who are you today? Like, what's your new mission, and how has that changed?
Well, I feel like it is expanded. It expanded into entrepreneurship at first. And then it expanded into all of life itself. And that's really kind of been the whole, it's been more of an expansion rather than a transformation.
Cool.
Like
I like that.
I feel as though now like that mindset of of earning your respect or living your truth has just transferred kind of like into my entire life. So trying to be purposeful with everything that I do, everyone that I talk to. And fitness is still a huge part of that, but I think
coaching, right? Tell us a little bit about that.
Right. So I get to work with high school young guys, kind of like mentorship.
Cool.
So we do fitness, we do basketball training, help them with their nutrition, and
Awesome.
and we spend time together, kind of like a mentorship type deal. And so really just have expanded out.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And I love that word. Like, and if you guys can't tell from the first like 5 minutes of this recording, I would say like of all of my podcasts so far, this will probably be one of the deeper ones. I feel like just because of the history of the relationship that the two of us have, having shared job experiences, having been in the same type of roles, having both worked in corporate America, shifting in and out of it. So lots of parallels. We're basically the same age. You're a year older than I am. And so I think that like we'll be able to jam on a lot of different levels in this conversation in comparison to some of my other interviews that I'm interviewing people who might be really different than me in certain ways. So, and Chris just usually has like those kind of like good one-liners, or like what I like to call, I don't know if you've read this book yet, but it's come up on every one of my podcasts. So I highly recommend Matthew McConaughey's Green Lights. Put it on the list.
All right, let's
recommend Audible
Green
just
light.
Because his voice is so attractive and it's way better when he reads it.
Okay.
It's really good. So you would like it because I feel like the way he writes and talks is very similar to kind of some of your outlooks on life. And I guarantee that now that I've brought it up, you're going to make a comment and I'll be like, yeah, Green Lights. He talks about that. So hold me to it. And in about 10 minutes, we'll check in on that. Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's a great book. I'm going to ask you about this later, but he is big into journaling and has actually journaled every day since he was 14 years old.
Wow.
And so that's how the book was written. He went into like the desert for like 2 months and just basically was alone with his thoughts, reread every journal that he's ever kept and written, and put the book together that way.
That's
Figured
amazing.
out how to like reorder, tell the story, what topics he wanted to hit on. So it's pretty cool. So anyway, we'll get back to Matthew in a little bit. But
that sounds dope.
So the first question I ask all of my guests, aside from who the hell are you, is what is your coffee order? If you follow me on Instagram, I'm a big coffee drinker. I got a dog. Her name is Bean, because of the coffee bean.
Right.
But I have a feeling you don't drink coffee.
I do.
Oh, you do?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was
nitro cold brews.
All right.
And
Classic.
I've been black.
From where?
Like
I know the answer. In Charlotte, where's your go-to spot?
In Charlotte, my go-to spot right now is the Hobbyist.
I knew you were gonna say that. You got a hobbyist vibe.
I love the people over there. It's a vibe. Yeah. And catch me at the Hobbyist.
If you saw Chris in 2018, 19, or 2018, we'll say, you could catch him at Central Coffee because that was.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I was
that
over
was
there
where
all
you'd
the
always
time.
go.
Yeah.
Do you drink your coffee black?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, straight up, nothing in it.
Straight up.
Ice, no ice.
No ice if they ask me,
Okay.
but I ain't picky.
Okay.
But that
All
I'm
right.
still good.
And are you of the camp that will drink iced coffee in 30-degree weather?
It doesn't matter.
I'm with you.
Doesn't matter.
I'm with you. Yeah. I actually don't fuck with hot coffee like at all. I really prefer iced. I don't know why. I just do.
Yeah.
So if
But
it's
I
20
will
degrees.
say, I've just been introduced to chai, to warm chais.
Nice. Okay. Catching feelings
I
for
don't know.
it?
I am. I feel like I'm being unfaithful to my nature.
Okay.
Turning into a bit of a love triangle.
Okay. So you got 2 in a rotation.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that from my habits as a trainer at Burn Boot Camp and just a trainer in general, my coffee addiction was real strong. And we had a joke, like on my trainer desk, you could typically see 4 cups. There were 2 waters, a tea, at least 1 thing of coffee, sometimes 5. And then always like a cold version of that coffee and then another one on the way. And usually the trainer who coached after me, one of my friends, Natasha, used to bring me coffee when she would come in for the 8:30 camp. And we were right next to Starbucks at Elizabeth. So that shit was dangerous.
I know. And thank God. But once I stopped there, I drink a lot more coffee now. Oh, man. Probably too much, but
it's all right. Whatever.
Hey, we here.
We're kicking. Yeah. If we get an ulcer later, we'll know where it came from. But cool. All right. So let's get into it. I like to freestyle on my podcast. So when I ask you a question, I'm going to let you take the floor.
Freestyle like rap?
I wish. Dude, you can freestyle rap if you want. I don't know if you have that skill set, but that is not me. But I like to just kind of ask the questions and let it ride. I usually work in chronological order from the sense that like if you say something, I'm going to take a couple notes and just see if that prompts any other questions.
All right, let's go.
Let's start off with, working in the fitness industry. Or actually, I'm going to back up. So Chris kind of ran over this real quick, and you can give me as much or as little information as you want to, but I'll kind of give it context.
Sure. When
Chris was overseas, and please correct me if any of these facts are not right, but when Chris was overseas, he unfortunately suffered a pretty serious injury that put him in the hospital and required surgery. Is that right?
That is quite true.
Yes. And as a very awful side effect of that surgery, you developed, should I call it an infection or what?
An autoimmune disease for sure.
Yeah. So he developed an autoimmune disease, and that really completely kind of, I don't want to use the word destroyed. Let's just say sidelined him from a lot of the things that he wanted to do, and definitely cut his basketball career short, and he had to come back to the US and completely rebuild. So tell me what that experience was like in terms of where that led you on your next path, because I think if anyone met you, if anybody's watching this video or you're not, I will describe what Chris looks like. He is how tall are you? I don't even know.
6'3".
Okay, he's 6'3". He's covered in tats, and he currently has paint all over his wrist and his forearm a little bit. And since I've last seen him, he's acquired a few piercings. I like the look. You look good.
Thank you.
He's ripped as hell, of course. Not that was like ever a cause for concern for anyone. He's always been in the best shape ever. He's changed his hair up a little bit. I kind of miss the flow.
Me too.
I kind of miss it. He had a really nice curly mop, and I think it should come back.
It just won't.
Why?
Yeah, I know.
You shaved it, and the rest was history?
Yeah.
Damn. Ugh. Wow.
I'm a little seasoned now.
I know. Yeah, but you look like he looks older in a good way. Yeah, he had to get all professional on us.
I had to grow up a little bit.
Yeah, had to grow up a little bit, but you still got that baby face. You look good.
Thank you.
Always a big smile, always positive energy, positive vibes. But yeah, tell me what that was like and how that led you. I described you for this reason. I think you were the last person, and maybe you're even the last person who thought this yourself, that would have wound up at, say, a Burn Boot Camp as a trainer. Because for those of you who don't know, Burn is geared towards, I made the joke earlier, specifically geared towards a mom in middle-aged 30s, I'd say, like 30, 32, maybe a little younger, has 1 or 2 kids. We call her Sally for sake of this example and the marketing purposes that Burn uses. And she might be a stay-at-home mom, likely is, maybe not, depends on the demographic and the area you're located in. But basically, it's the type of woman who puts everyone, and I think this is many women, puts everyone else first besides herself. So Burn Boot Camp was the place for her to throw her kid in child watch for 45 minutes, not have to worry if she walked in 5 minutes late, not have to worry if there's fucking throw up on her tank because her child had an episode in the car, and she got to work out with like-minded women who just needed less than an hour to feel like themselves, and to boot, might have been working out next to somebody who had a very different fitness level than them, but was able to be in an environment that was a no judgment zone. And like, that's a true statement. It's not a cliche.
For sure.
That was the part that I loved about Burn that I could not duplicate anywhere else. So how did someone such as yourself find himself in that job?
Well, whenever I applied, I had no idea.
Did you even know?
Yeah,
Did you just see the word boot camp?
Right. And I just thought it looked cool. And but yeah, I gravitated towards fitness because it was my own fitness was the bit of control I had over my situation with basketball ending and kind of recovering from a disease that I had never even heard of. I was just looking for some sort of like sign of momentum and finding health
Sign
and
of
fitness.
momentum. I like that.
Right. So, like, I mean, you know, I had lifted weights and done all the fitness stuff complementary to being a basketball player, but I kind of hated working out in that fashion. I just did it because basketball players needed to do it, right? I grew a love for it whenever I just got more thankful of, you know, just being able to have a body that could move a little bit. And so, but over the years, my relationship with even what happened in Germany has changed a lot. I mean, I wouldn't have had it happen any other way now. And I feel like in 2017, it was like kind of like a bounce back situation where like
comeback.
Right. But I don't really feel that way anymore. You know, I mean, or I'd say my view on it is just like
changed.
Yeah, it got me, you know, that chapter was over and it was time to evolve. And one great thing about like going into fitness at 23 was that I was able to immediately start having like an impact on people. And, you know,
I remember you saying that too. Like, I think I
immediate.
asked you that question, like, why do you like this job? Because at the time I was thinking about leaving my desk. And I'm pretty sure you gave me the same exact answer.
I mean, it's really as a fitness professional, you get to see people in like a true form outside of their comfort zone. I won't say it's like as intimate as therapy, but
No.
but you get to see people struggle, and you learn a lot about people, and so to help people overcome, I would say it was great. It was great to see that I could do that, you know, outside of the context of sport or whatever, but also too, I feel like it was just huge for me. It was huge for me to have like a transfer of energy and to let it be something positive. So
That's awesome.
So yeah.
Nice. I like that. And to that end, like, what was, two-part question, biggest surprise from working in that environment, working at Burn, working with women in the capacity that you did, and just your biggest takeaway overall? Like, what's the biggest lesson that you got from that experience on the floor? There's so many, so maybe you want to give me two. I don't know. But like, what was from the journey of like, if you could look back and watch a video of the first camp that you ever trained compared to how you would approach one today, what do you think you would see in
So what I
yourself?
learned just in terms of like the two biggest lessons in terms of coaching.
Yeah, you could do coaching, or you could even just do in terms of being a lead trainer and like really managing a business, because you had a lot of responsibility in that role. I think we can both agree on that.
I feel like
You were trusted.
I feel like as a leadership figure, like especially of a unit like that, I feel like you are the culture. So like whatever you are the culture. So from the top down, the other trainers around you, the clients, your energy, your vibe, your approach, your programming, the standards that you set, your ability to remain like consistent to the standards, whether it's like where the weight goes, are people allowed to stop on 3, 2, or do they have to really stop when it's on 1 and over? Every little thing, you get a great mirror, and you get a very true mirror whenever you have a small or large group that is like trusting you. And so like you are the culture. So every little thing that you do matters a lot.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think that's huge. I think that's like, and I think for people like us, I think we picked up on that and are perceptive to that pretty quickly. And so it was kind of cool for me because I never thought about it like that. But now reflecting on the experience, it was the work that you did, Lindsay, Kyle, everybody else that was on the staff at the time, and throughout my experience there, like transitioning from a client to a trainer, and then having to teach coaches and train coaches who had never been trainers there, this really comes to light. So it's this whole idea of like, first I saw the standard that was set at Elizabeth that I knew I want to take this, and that, and bring it over to South Park for sure. Second piece of it was, how do I get someone to grasp the uniqueness, the special environment, like the true way of what you said, like we stop on one. Like, what kind of language do you need to use to then coach a trainer to continue to instill that even after you're gone? Like, I hope that what I said at the beginning of this podcast recording, like, it makes you feel good, because it's like, okay, the times when I was annoying to a client and was like, nope, like even if it was in a jokey kind of way, you're like, nope, you stop on one. I said 5, I'm going to say 5 again. Like that sort of stuff where you get to bring your flavor and your spiciness and your personality and flair. It never left. And I think that's a testament to also to the brand overall, and that damn 35-point checklist. And that fact that like there aren't a lot of other gyms out there that are doing that. But I also think I took it for granted. Like I got to see you train. I got to see the way Kyle trained. I didn't really train many camps with Lindsay prior to, just because I was working and she usually taught at like 9:30. But same with Bryson and a lot of the other people that walked through there. Like you don't realize how much you pick up just by being a client and like being around it and absorbing it. And not to say that it's easy, because jokingly, we used to say that I was like cursed with Tabata, because the first 4 times I ever trained there, just because of my schedule, I had Tabata every single time. And
those are fun ones.
They're fun ones, but as you know, it's a lot to manage a clock and also be present.
Yeah, I definitely think having to be that right, especially in the beginning, that's really hard.
Yes. So I was like paralyzed by the clock, because I've quickly learned, fuck 2010. Just make it 40-20 in terms of the work to rest ratio, because that bought me some time. Yeah. But it's the whole like sentiment of like, oh, we're on trainer time, so 40 seconds is actually 60 if we're spilling the secret sauce. But it was really difficult to try to correct clients' form, circulate throughout the floor, and then also peer down at my watch to be like, shit, 20 seconds is up. So it threw me into the gauntlet real quick. And I think that the standard of training there, and I've talked to other trainers about this since having left, like it's very high, and it's not a bad thing though, because then it allows you to go to another studio and be like, yo, this is the way I train.
Right. I mean, I truly feel like the concept and the variety of fitness that you're going to get at like a burn boot camp, you could go anywhere else. I really feel that.
So true. Sure. It's such a good, like, no matter where you take it, whether that's to become an owner, franchisee, you know, maybe even leave fitness and just run some other sort of business. Like, I think that it is so intense right out of the gate that it makes you have a confidence in yourself that like you're a professional multitasker.
For sure.
Right?
For sure.
That and a therapist. And you kind of got to the heart of this one, but like, people in my family joke that I'm not an empathetic person, and I like to disagree, because and maybe I'm just not empathetic to the people I love the most, and I can do it with strangers. I don't know, but I'm sure you can attest at that kind of job. And it's not specific to any gym. It's just as a true trainer, if you're a good coach, I think the difference between an okay one and a good one is one who's an empath and can express empathy. Because, and I don't know if you struggled with this, so I'd love to ask you this question. We're both young. I worked there when I was 24 through age 26. You were there, even younger than that, 23 to 25, right? Yeah. Right. How was it? There's twofold for you because you're a male. What was it like for you to give context, we did these sessions called focus meetings that were basically like 10. They usually turned out to be shorter because they were back to back with camps. But how did you do a focus meeting and try to relate to a woman who was telling you, I don't have time to cook. I don't really give a shit about this macro thing that you're talking to me about. And I just want to know how to lose weight. But by the way, I eat off of all of my kids' plates because I don't make food for myself first. How did you get to their level without them pushing back? Like there were times, and I had to learn to bite my tongue, and I'm sure you were in this situation, and maybe you weren't, and I'd be interested to hear if you weren't, why you think that is, where women would say to me, you're 24, you don't have kids, so you just don't get it. What did you do when you were like, when you found that?
Yeah, I mean, I really feel like it could have been tougher for you in that position because you are a younger female without kids. For me, I really just needed to be a good listener and how I was able to provide like thoughtful and effective feedback was just like, well, I've met with 500 or 600 people just like you. So what I'm telling you is not what I think you should do because it works for me. It's like this is work for the 500. Right. So I was able to help them understand. Like I was able to draw the comparisons or an understanding of what they're going through to the hundreds of other women who I talk to that are going through the same thing. So I actually feel like it was probably easier for me than you.
No, I'm not surprised. That's why I kind of threw that caveat in there because I think for me, it's like the sentiment for these women. They're looking at me like, damn, I had all that when I was 24 and didn't have my husband and my 2-year-old. So it's like this like longing for what could have been. But on the flip side, my takeaway, first of all, that job was the best fucking birth control you could ever imagine. But other than that, like it definitely made me realize like, okay, it's very easy as a mom, the helm of the household, also a businesswoman. Like you could definitely agree with this because we shared a lot of clients about across locations, like where we are in the world, being on the East Coast, the city that we're in, like all that jazz. We had a lot of working moms who had full-time jobs, had 2 little kids. We're still trying to find time to work out. Like we were just talking about one right before we started this call. Attorney, had a badass job, was in peak physical condition, but she worked hard as hell. And guess what? The differentiator for her, and I know this because she put it on her Instagram, she liked to cook food and this is the coolest part about it, she helped her kids become a part of that experience. And so if I had to guess, I would bet my money that her daughter is going to have a very good relationship with physical activity and food because her mom didn't make it as something that was like, oh, I'm just going to like, and no knock to moms who need to do this because look, you get busy. I get it. Like, I don't really love to cook. My method of cooking is like throw shit in a bowl and combine the macros accordingly and eat. I'm not sitting there slinging recipes like the person I'm speaking about. And I admire her for doing that and somehow having a full-time job. So good on you. But I think that like, it's really kind of cool to see these women like come into their own and realize that they can go run a marathon and still do all the things that they tabled from when they were 20 something, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. It's amazing.
Yeah. So inspiring too. Like, I think that you learn more from your clients. And I think this is in fitness in general. Like, I don't know where you stand on this, but would you agree that like the life experience that you got from working with people who were older, even just by a couple years, like their wisdom that they were able to pass on to you or the way that they dealt with problems? Like, I know something that I've learned really quickly and just recently with the personal experiences that I've gone through, I was like learning like the whole idea of respond, don't react.
For sure. I mean, yeah, for sure. And there's just so much value in whenever I was in the position at Burn Boot Camp as a male in his mid-20s, being around a lot of women in their 30s who have families. And so I was able to just learn so much about, I would say, sustainability.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Like because in that time, I guess I didn't really grasp the marathon that is life. You know what I'm saying? And so habits that work in over 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. I learned a lot about that, and also too how to like manage your mental, emotional state over a long period of time, and to keep like the things that are important to you at the top of your priority list. Things like that. Yeah. I actually feel like I learned a lot. I feel like I learned a lot from my clients, to be honest.
Yeah, I do too. And I think I still continue to do. And I think they get reinforced because I think in both of our situations, and I have no idea who and how you've kept in touch. But for me, like leaving that gym and then moving away in a situation that I never expected to happen, thought I was going to get married, did not, left Charlotte abruptly because I felt like for my mental state, that's just what I had to do. I can't tell you the just like sheer support and genuine support that I got from clients who were smart enough to know that Krysta was not being Krysta. And they just sent a text and said, I don't know what's up. I don't need to know the details, but I just want you to know that I'm thinking about you and I hope you're okay.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
It's really cool.
It's beautiful to matter to people.
Yeah, it's a good way of putting it. It really is. And it's just like, it like, confirms and reaffirms for all the times when you were like, I'm really tired and my alarm's going to go off at 4:10 and I got to be at the gym in 20 minutes and I'm really tired. And then I want to get to this question next. So this is a good segue. I have to leave my personal shit off the floor right now and just focus on these people. That was my biggest takeaway from the job. And I like what you said about sustainability, because for as funny as this is going to sound, like burned me out. And I had a lot of trouble with this idea that the work it took to be the trainer that I wanted to be, like, I'm going to take some ownership for this. Like, I set a very high standard for myself, and I don't think that's a bad thing, but in some situations it can be. I'm working on this right now. Like, I'm launching a business, and I'm really launching 3 because I have my podcast, I have an online platform, I have my own personal brand with the Krysta Huber. That's like 4 right there. And then I'm launching brick and mortar. I have one partner and she has a full-time job. So I have no issue. I don't want it any other way. Like, she's there because she has a facet of the business that I know nothing about. She's a nurse and we're going to be doing injections. I'm not about to take a needle to anyone's face, but I think like I have just this natural capacity to want to like go and do it all. And that job like allowed me to flourish in that type of environment because it was required. But there were some points where I took it to a new level because I was so obsessed with making sure that everyone had the best client experience that I just wouldn't let shit go. So to circle it back to 2 points, first, like this whole idea of sustainability, let's hit that one. And then I'll move into the second one about like not being a hamster on this wheel. But with sustainability, I'm circling it back because you talked about this at the very beginning of the episode when you were describing how you've transitioned and expanded. Like, you said you were a yes man at the time when I first met you. So what's your mentality today? Like, give me a scenario of like an opportunity that at age 23, you would have been like, fuck yeah, let's go. That now at age 27, almost 28, you're like, I don't have the capacity for this.
I feel like my whole mindset of like hyperactivity being better, like hyperactivity, like let's say if I was trying to train 6 or 7 hours a day, well, I couldn't give clients the best me for 6 or 7 hours a day, and accepting my limits. Okay. And also too, not taking it personal if I'm not a right fit for somebody as a coach or as a trainer or whatever. You know, I think like by nature at that age, I was very much like, I wanted to please people. And if I couldn't please somebody, I took it personally rather than just like accepting that that's okay. And I'm not, none of us is meant to be for everybody.
Yes. Yeah. Like, and like, tell me this, like, would you agree that you're actually a better coach if you have the wherewithal to say to someone, look, like, these are your challenges and I can't meet those needs. So I'm going to do you one better and give you a referral for the coach that I know who can.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
And it's really hard at age 23 to coming out of college. And I'm sure you could relate to this idea of like when you played basketball, you played at a very competitive school. Your team did well while you were there. You get a lot of love being a D1 athlete. You probably also got a lot of privileges and you're seen in a certain way. And in that time, you probably did feel like you could be for everyone because like people were interested in that. And maybe I'm totally wrong. I don't want to speak for you, but like, what do you think about that? Like, have you ever thought about your transition from athlete, even from athlete, college athlete in Germany, where you now are like a much smaller fish in a bigger pond? Like, did any of that like, did you pick up on any of that there? Or is that something that changed now looking back on it 4, 5, 6 years later?
Well, to be honest, I feel like my journey as an athlete was so awesome, but the shadow aspect that was there was that my sense of self was just really greatly inflated. So I mean, I think more.
That's exactly what I mean.
Yeah, I feel like I thought like, I feel like there's a lot of, it's beautiful, the adrenaline and the pressure that comes with all eyes on you. And, you know, if you perform the praise and all of that, but there is also there's like an amplified like paranoia that's not really real. And so whenever you stop playing sports, that doesn't just go away.
No,
like, you know,
and take that into everything you do.
And it's not just like, oh, want attention from everybody. It's like literally, no, I didn't want attention from everybody, but you think that your decisions matter a lot more than they do
and that you're actually getting the attention when you're not.
Right. So I think that was something that probably to an extent is still something that I'm working through, to be honest.
I'm glad that you brought that up because that's exactly how I felt when I broke off my relationship. I didn't post a thing on social media for 4 months and I was a ghost. And you want to know why? It wasn't because I could sit here and say I just needed time to myself and that was a distraction. Fuck no, I'd be lying. It's because I was so worried that I now completely destroyed this perception of being like girl next door that I had created about myself. Like, I'm sure like your reaction to what I told you was very positive, of course, because what else are you going to say? Oh, that sucks. Like, yeah, it does suck, but it doesn't because it's led me on to bigger and better things. And that was exactly what you said to me. You're like, cool, you're on to the next. Great, good for you. Like, shrug it off, like take it to the chin, keep moving. But for me, the whole reason why I became a ghost was because I was so embarrassed. I had this, like you said, it wasn't even inflated sense of self necessarily, because like I think in the roles that we've both had, like you definitely get a lot of love and you appreciate that. Like
sure.
I've never felt more loved than the day I actually left that job because I got flowers, cards. I had almost 100 people show up to my last workout and like I cried when I was doing the finisher. Like I had tears in my eyes. I couldn't get out my final countdown, and it was a great day and it was amazing. And like I have so many pictures and memories and things to look back on. It was really cool. But I felt like I let those people down, and like in such a twisted way. Like I felt like I was this pillar of health, and for me, my mental state was so destroyed that I just felt like I couldn't go on Instagram until I was ready to be honest about who I was and what I was going through. And I wasn't ready to tell anyone that I had severe depression. And until I made a promise to myself I wasn't going to post on Instagram. And when I was ready, I was going to say exactly what happened. And I don't hold that back. It's a part of my story. I'm honest about it. I was like clinically depressed. I had suicidal thoughts, things that I never expected. If you asked 18-year-old Krysta, I was captain of the swim team, student council president, editor of the newspaper. I got into a school that had an 11% acceptance rate. And yeah, at that point, I probably thought my shit doesn't stink. So maybe that was the inflated sense of self. But like this idea that you think everyone is so worried about your problems, they're not, because look at 2020. Everyone has so many problems that they're dealing with that yours are actually super small to the rest of the world around you. And you want to think that you matter, right? But like, what would you say to this? Like, and you said you're still working on it, which I think is a very honest answer. So like, what are some of the things that maybe you do differently today or think about differently today because you're just purely aware of that?
Well, I would say first that an inflated sense of self isn't necessarily this kind of like egoic,
it's a different word.
You're truly in a reality where you feel anxiety, you feel depression, you feel paranoia and overwhelmed because you think that who you are and what you think and what you do matters more than it does. And it's not this kind of like actually negative self-centered thing where you're just trying to lift yourself, right? But like the fact of the matter is, like, and I've been there. My relationship with social media is still weird because I have an awareness of this thought process. Like, you said, I'm gonna take 4 months off until I can come back and tell my truth and all of that, and like, no one cares.
Right. Exactly.
No one cares.
No one
but
cared
like
that I wasn't there.
But
it was
create
important
that
to me.
And then even in the community, I mean, like I had with the 600 whatever people at Burn Boot Camp, and then with As Fast As You built that gym, and you start to get like you get this sense of like, I quit or I got fired, and everybody's gonna like
talk about you,
right? And maybe they will for like a week, but then there's like no one cares. Like no one really cares. Like people have their whole own life, and I think there's so many factors that come into that. I think that's just always going to be the shadow of being in a leadership position, and so it's good to go through these because it better prepares us for the next chapter to not have to take things personally. But also, I will say, like, that that's a poison that runs through our culture,
Yeah.
because like we're sharing so much of our life on the internet. It's actually like it's psychotic. Like we really think that we
is.
matter more than we do, and it's harmful. It's harmful. And like, your struggles with mental health, I empathize with that greatly, and I know that there's hopefully so many people who are going to hear this that are in their 20s, or teens or 30s or whatever the fuck. It's very real, and I think a big step is to like kindly accept how you're creating an illusion that you matter more than you do.
How do you think you've developed the awareness that you were that way? Like what did it take for you to be like, okay, I need to take a step back? Like, was it an event? Was it a book? Was it a move? Was it a person? And you don't have to, if it was a person, you don't have to name them. But
For sure.
like what?
Well,
because that takes a lot of self-awareness. And I have to say, like, I didn't develop that self-awareness in me until about 2 months ago. And interestingly enough, I think I now ask better questions. I have better relationships with my friends. And I've also dropped a lot of people. And I use the word dropped on purpose because a lot of what I went through, I realized that my life in Charlotte was so tied to the person I was in my relationship, not to him, but to the person I was because I was with him. And I created that girl. He doesn't take responsibility for that. But it made me realize that so many people in this city don't know the Krysta that I want them to know. They only know the Krysta in the context of my job,
That's big.
my relationship.
Yeah, I feel
so
that.
How did you realize that? What did it take?
I mean, well, I would say like in the beginning, it was like meditation. And so I started to become like aware that I'm like the observer of this experience. And so then I really started to connect with like my like emotions and my thought process. And it was kind of like a snowball. I started to realize like very subtle aspects of my personality that came from like wanting to please people or ways that I
Okay.
was told that I was. And so I started to kind of like strip down all these aspects of my personality that I felt like weren't really pure,
Okay.
or ways that people, wanted me to be, or ways that I thought people wanted me to be. And then I started to realize how many decisions I made because of the imaginary people that were watching my life, that care, that don't
What?
care.
Yeah.
And I started
you say
to
that now and you're like, that literally sounds nuts. And I have to tell you, I'm so surprised. Like, I'm writing this down because you never gave me the impression or energy that you cared about what other people think. And I don't know if that was, what do you think that was, like a safety mechanism, like a defense mechanism?
I
Because
didn't think I
just,
knew I cared.
yeah. So
And I think, I mean, even at that time, on a surface and deep
Mhm.
level, I didn't. This
Mhm.
was like subconscious.
Okay.
I wasn't even
Okay.
aware of it.
Yeah.
My personality self didn't care what people thought. But like underneath it, a lot of my decisions were rolled off of not wanting to disappoint people.
Mm.
And I made a lot of decisions and contorted my personality in ways that I was trying to take emotional responsibility for a lot of people. And
Yes.
yeah, it's pretty rough.
And I also think that right there is so easy to do in the fitness industry because you want to relate to your clients and then like you convince yourself, because I did this in my relationship and frankly that's what made it unravel. I wanted to carry the weight for that person and carry their hardship, so much so that the minute when the shoe dropped on the other foot and I was the one who needed help, he didn't have the capacity to help because he didn't know how, because I never allowed him to. So maybe it's a vulnerability thing, maybe it's a defense mechanism for me, but I think it was so easy to operate that way because I did it at work all the time.
Yeah, it's a big lesson. I mean, so I understand, and I think the biggest thing is whenever you're helping somebody out in a professional setting, that's your job. But in your personal life, in your friendships, in your relationships, that's your choice. And
Mhm.
it's very easy for people to, I mean, and I know I've done it too, like you create a new person inside of a relationship. And a big it's very big to like try to be aware of that and to try to allow yourself to be like as authentic as possible, because we're humans. So like if the version of Chris or the version of Krysta that you create is holding space for another person's mess, then you start to develop this like expectation that it's going to be reciprocated, but that's your fault. That's your fault.
That's
because
huge.
because
That's huge. Sound like Donald Trump.
No comment.
Yeah.
If you're gonna hold space for somebody, if you're gonna be there for somebody, if you're gonna like take on another person's personness that we all have, it has to be a very conscious decision, because the person owes you nothing. They don't owe it to you to
that.
And it's like, oh, I'm down now. And I mean, and I'm saying this, but I've asked for it before and it wasn't given. And I went through the whole process of like wanting to place blame and wanting to say like, this person is at a lower level. I would have never done that. But the reality is like, it was me who made the decision to give support and time and energy that I didn't have. And so to expect it back from them, I mean, it's not real.
It's like you're imprinting what are your values, because it's your value that you want to be that way. Like you decided that you want to be that way and you're expecting theirs to align. And I think you're expecting theirs to align just because you're dating them. So you like assume that, oh, if I'm dating this person and we've made it this long, our values must be the same. But that's not necessarily true. And I don't think they have to be. You don't have to, like fundamentally, there are certain things that are non-negotiables, right? But at the same time, there are certain things that like maybe you should differ on that because your partner challenges you and that makes you better and it makes them better and vice versa. And so
I damn sure ain't no relationship expert for anybody listening. But you said the word expect like 3 times, and I know you start building up those things, shit gets weird, right? Expectations. Right? So I mean, communication. And like if part of your love language is leading and problem solving, which I feel as though maybe for both of us it is, you really have to be conscious about where to draw the line in your personal relationships, friendships included, because like being a friend does not mean solving people's problems for them. Being a good boyfriend or girlfriend or husband and wife, like we all have our own path, and like struggle is valuable. And so in a work setting, in a team setting, in a gym setting, when you're a coach, a leader, the manager, whatever, you have a responsibility to problem solve. But like you have to over time let life teach you like when to turn that off.
Yeah, I actually have learned that really recently.
Yeah, for sure.
Because of what I've gone through from a mental health standpoint, I found myself in a situation where I felt like I had a person in my life who was dealing with some mental health challenges, and I tried to point it out, and they flipped out, and they don't speak to me anymore. And that's fine. But I felt like for me, I did my duty to be like, hey, I'm seeing some behavior that I saw in myself, so I feel like I can identify it. And I just want to put it out there that I would like to help you get help if you think that you need it. The person didn't think that they needed it. We got into an argument, and it turned out that they brought other people into it, but I did too, because I was so concerned, but I made it my mission to try to help them. And then those people didn't like me either. And I have to let it go. Like they set the boundary that they didn't want my help. They didn't want to hear from me. And it is what it is. And they know that I wish them nothing but the best. And I think they know deep down that I had their best intentions at heart, right? But regardless of the topic, like first of all, mental health is such a hard thing to talk about. And I'm trying to create space for it not to be. I mean, like one of the pillars of my future business is going to be incorporating a 5-minute meditation at the end of every one of my workouts, because I think that clients need to learn how to meditate, so much so that I also want to offer counseling services on site at my gym, because I really think there is going to be an easy way to point to this idea that, like, let's say somebody came into a studio and they did a 20-minute cognitive therapy session, and then they did Chris's workout. If I had to bet, and I don't want to be a betting person, but in this case, I feel like the odds are high in my favor, that workout is going to be better just because of the 20 minutes they spent talking to someone about their problems or what they perceive to be problems that probably aren't that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things. So hopefully this whole idea of talking about that stuff doesn't become like is not a taboo in the future, but we have a lot of work to do to get there. But I think like to just circle back to what you said about friendships, yeah, like I probably crossed the line for that person, but I couldn't see it at the time because I just wanted to help them.
I'm glad you said it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a lesson. It's a lesson. And
I learned so much from
I
it.
think it's kind-hearted, but like I just like I am learning that like it's, and this is my opinion.
Yeah.
It's like that's wrong to try to like I don't think if you feel like a person is in danger and you really care about them, yeah, you need to speak up. You need to be there for your person, for anybody. But like to take on like, oh, I know how to solve your life problems.
Sure,
It's actually it's like demeaning to somebody. And I've done that shit so many times, and I thought I was being like a good guy or the good
and
guy
it's hard
or helping.
because it's like, I think you would agree with this, and this is how I kind of made peace with it. Like, I know I was leading with like kindness. Like, it was coming from a place of good intention. So like, I'm going to be able to sleep at night and know that I tried. But like in that situation in particular, I felt some type of way because unfortunately, like it backfired. Like they took to social media and called me out and said that I was imprinting my own mental health state onto them. And like, for me, that just crossed the line and got to a situation where I was just like, all right, clearly like we're not going to be friends anymore. And that's okay. Like you set the boundary. I'm respecting the boundary. Maybe we can come back around in a couple months, years, weeks, whatever, and revisit. But if we can't, we had a good run. You're in relationships with people for reasons and seasons, and I've made peace with that. However, I think like I was so bent out of shape that I felt that I was worried in the context of this year that person was alone because of like isolation and jobs and all that jazz, that I was just like, shit. But then I made it about me, because I did make it about me in the sense of like, I just wish somebody said something to me sooner, because in my case, I think I was depressed a lot longer than I ever noticed. And if it wasn't for my little brother, I would have never picked up on it. And he lived with me, so he saw it. I couldn't see it in myself. And so I wonder if like, I think I just like got this mentality of like, it's really hard for people to see when their mental state is not okay, because we play tricks on ourselves and we convince ourselves, oh, it's fine. And I had another podcast episode where I was talking to a nutritionist about this, a dietitian, and he said to me, my friend Sanan, he was like, it's our culture of our generation to breed this mentality. And it goes back to your point of being a yes man, that like, if our mental state is off, oh, it was just a hard week at work. Oh, I just like had this situation with my girlfriend. Oh, like, you know, we brush it off and blame it on something else. So what do you do with that? Like, how do you combat that mentality?
I mean, it all goes back for me.
Yeah, for
it's
you.
like, it's truly powerful to just understand, like earlier you said, like how much like we're creating our perceived problems. A lot of the problems are perceived. A lot of the problems are self-created.
Yeah.
A lot of the problems like are really only because you think more people care than actually do. And if that is not the case, if you're truly having situations in your life, I think like the two actually go hand in hand. Like everybody has problems.
Yeah.
You know, like what you see on the internet and what you see on your phone, like everybody's on there talking about, they're not, you know, talking about their weaknesses on there.
No.
Everyone has problems. And so have it developing like an awareness of your like state where you don't feel good, and you can understand like, okay, I don't feel good. Like this is normal. But I think a lot of us are have chronic mental health problems, so much so that,
I think
as you mentioned, you may not even be conscious of it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, damn, if I had the answer for that, I'd help
we'd
a lot
be
of people.
helping
Yeah,
way more people.
for
But
sure,
hopefully
for sure.
just thinking about it. Sorry, no, you're good. Hopefully just thinking about it right now and even like speaking that situation into existence is enough to get someone who's way more qualified than the two of us.
I mean, I
start thinking
truly
about
feel
it.
as though like there's a lot of things that can be created that create like a huge positive effect. For example, just gym culture. You know, and that's something that's beautiful, that was beautiful, very beautiful about Burn Boot Camp.
Yeah.
That's something that's very beautiful about sports teams.
Sure.
Some sports teams, some work environments, is that there's such a level of closeness and intimacy and people committed to their goal that it becomes a safe space. I think the most valuable thing that I experienced as an athlete, and playing on teams was like overcoming conflict, getting guys to accept their roles, being able to be teammates with somebody who you wouldn't be friends with if it wasn't for that. It's incredibly valuable, and having a safe space to be vulnerable. And I mean, I think that like as health professionals, or whenever I was a health professional, and you going deeper into this, I love your concept about, it's so much more than the physical.
Totally.
It is so much more than the physical. The mental, the physical, the mental, the spiritual, or, the soulful, whatever makes the listener comfortable in that. It's all one. It is all one. You know what I'm saying? Like there's people who.
Hell yeah.
And you've been around it long enough to know that like exercising does not equal healthy. It's kind of like, why are you exercising?
What's your why?
Some of the most fit people are in very unhealthy mental states.
I think that was totally me.
Some people who externally aren't like mainstream fit are the most happy, whole, grounded, joyful, full lights in this world. And so, there's the shadow to being obsessive over your nutrition.
Sure.
I was like, okay, is that getting weird? Yeah. I've gotten weird before, and I am not a female.
Right.
And I say that because
you've tried to be what? When you were a burn athlete, what was your body fat percentage? What did it have to be? Like,
I don't know.
It was something low.
Like
it was
6-7%.
It was 6 or 7%. And you look great right now. And if I had to guess, you're probably happier than when you were living at 6% body fat.
I feel like Western fitness is still putting is what am I trying to say? I feel like, here in America, that our mainstream fitness takes a lot of the pillars and markers and side effects of wellness and places them as the goal. So like, what I mean,
a solid statement.
Yeah.
Break that down.
So,
that's big.
So what I mean is that like, I feel as though your physical appearance, your skin having a glow, your, how many calories you're eating, what type of workout you're doing, all of these are like side effects. And I think that we're just now beginning to get into like the core of like, of your wellness being the leader of your mental state, how you feel about yourself, how you feel about your life. Maybe you're thinking about yourself too much, I mean, so I feel as though like a lot of times we want to like solve or we make the symptoms of like, okay, get to this weight, get to this body fat percentage, get to this pant size, dress size. I was about to say shoe size, but
I think that's kind of controlled, Chris.
But those things are only side effects of being like a okay person. You know what I'm saying? And so it kind of sucks. It's rough. And then the ideas just are they perpetuate so quickly because of how we share information.
Right. And like caring about looks and using that. Like my nutrition business would be nothing if I couldn't take transformation photos of my clients. And I'm not going to stop taking them because of what you just said. However, going back to the nutrition piece, because it's just an easy example to drive this point home, same podcast that I had with Sinan, he said to me, and we also thought it was a generational thing, and I'd love your input on this. He has a lot of clients, so kind of like you, athletic background. He went from ventures such as being the personal nutritionist for a few guys on the U.S. Olympic ski team to now working for a company called Stronger You. And they helped me with my like everything I know about macros, literally everything. My own personal transformation and really like changing 1, my food environment, 2, my relationship with food, and 3, just how like I look at my day in terms of planning and most importantly, habits, not making foods off limits, not really caring about what the actual number is on the scale, the pant size, dress size, whatever. But the one thing I said to him was, you know, like what kind of mindset did you have to change as the coach to go from someone who is so performance based and their goal being like, okay, I have to hit this time or hit this event or XYZ. Like that's very cut and dry, right? Like I was a swimmer. So, or you playing basketball, you put up a certain number of points and it is what it is. To the everyday, call it an athlete if you want, call it the everyday athlete. Like maybe I'm an everyday athlete now, but I said to him, I was like, you also get a lot of people who are severely obese and like by their doctor's standards will have a heart attack in the next 5 years. So what is that like? And to sum it all up, he said to me, because I asked the question, what's the biggest difference you see between clients who are in their 50s versus clients who are 22? And his response was this: 22-year-old vanity. It's all about looking a certain way. And he said to me, he was like, look, I'll call you out. Like you and I have had this conversation. Like you're a fitness professional. You want to have your abs. You need it for photos on Instagram. Hell yeah. I'm not going to sit here and deny that. Like I'm not happy with how I look right now because like I'm sitting here and my pants feel a little tight. But guess what? I'm so much happier than I was a year ago, than I was 2 years prior to that, and probably 3 years before that. In 2018, I was in the best fucking shape of my life. But I also know that there were certain things about my lifestyle that were different. I transitioned from a desk job to working at Burn. If you ever wore an Apple Watch, we probably got, I can tell you, we got 24 to 25,000 steps a day. That's insanity. That is not normal. But it helped me stay lean and it helped me stay fit. Fast forward though to somebody who is in their 50s, the number one thing they care about when they hire a coach, and this isn't for everyone, but I think it is more for like the extremities of someone who's literally being told that they're shortening their life expectancy by the choices that they've made thus far. They like want to go to the doctor and like take a blood panel prior to cleaning up their diet and then do one in 6 months. If they see cholesterol levels have changed, blood like sample is a totally different, like heart, totally different. They're happy. They use that as a marker of their results. So do you agree that it's a generational thing, or do you think it's a much bigger problem? And to reiterate what you just pointed out, it's because of like our mindset towards like what a person's goal should be in fitness and in health.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I think as you mature, or I think as you mature, like you can take all of it in.
Yeah.
I think you can also too take all of it in. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to, I want to feel good. Yeah, I want to have great, like, you know, biomarkers, but I want to look good too. I think generally, like as a person understands, you know, gets deeper into what does it mean to me to be healthy, they're going to expand beyond just the aesthetic. But I'm not going to sit here and say the aesthetic doesn't matter or isn't important, because we all value that, and that's all right.
Of course. And I think you hit a really great point that I've not thought about up until you just said it. But I think like that's happened for me personally, because now I'm trying to create what I would honestly call a self-care utopia. So my future business will have, and might not start with all these pillars, but it has 5 components that I want it to have: mental health coaching and meditation, Reiki, all that jazz, fitness concept, of course, some sort of like Pilates or cardio, like combination with like treads and megaformers as like the, you know, like the signature workout. And then it's going to have nutrition with a coffee smoothie bar. It'll have recovery, which is like cryotherapy, FST, shit like that. And then the last piece is it's going to have aesthetics. It's going to have Botox, fillers, injections, a whole med spa. And so for me, I think that the reason why I'm attracted to that idea, now, first of all, there's a gap in the market in terms of the fact that, like, first of all, as a female consumer, I have memberships to spin studios, yoga studios, eyelash studios, hair places, Botox, fillers, all that shit. Like, why do I have to go to 17 stores to get that done? That's just like the practicality. That's really secondary. But the second point is I feel that there needs to be a space where it is all encompassing. So like, why not have that doctor on staff who can take care of the mental piece, and then also have that personal trainer who can take care of the physical? And then to take it even a step further, talking about aesthetic, like a lot of people might push back to me and be like, okay, well, if you're going to preach this whole platform of being real, authentic, and have mental health, why would you offer Botox as a service? Well, guess what? People who are happy because they look in the mirror and they like what they see. And if that means that they want their lips to be a little bigger, let me help them do it. That's kind of my mentality for it. So maybe that's a sign, I don't know, that I've matured. I like to think so, or at least I've matured enough in my, like, the world of fitness as both a professional and a consumer to realize that there's space for that because it hasn't existed yet. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So that wasn't really a question, just me kind of like
No, it's great.
processing
It's great.
what you're
It's
saying.
great.
So
No, it's great.
yeah. So let's see. I guess at this point, the other burning question I have for you right now is, like, you told me a little bit before the podcast that you're starting to dabble in art. You were surprised that I remembered this, but Chris was a communications major, and I remembered because I was too. But we talked about the paint, and I kind of want to know, like, where you see yourself going next. You just mentioned to me last week you got your yoga certification. What are you planning on doing with that? And, like, if you could listen to this podcast a year from today, where do you hope you'll be?
I'll start there. If I could listen to this podcast a year from now, I would just hope that I am living in a way where, like, I'm expressing, like, my true gifts and being in a true way that allows me to, like, love what I'm doing every day and it impact people. And so for a while, for many seasons, that was me and for fitness. And I don't want to say outgrew it. I just grew
Went in different
into a
direction.
different, and that's
Yeah.
it. And so, like, I'm in a spot in my life right now where I've got, a skill set as an entrepreneur, and I'm very creative and I love people. And I know that that's going to be valuable, whatever path I take. And what I've experienced over, the last year or so in terms of, like, transforming my life and healing a lot of aspects of myself that I was either unconscious of or in denial of, I've really allowed myself to become, in some ways, like a child again. So I'm like,
Wow.
I'm experimenting. So I'm experimenting with different art forms. I'm experimenting with video content and photography and music and writing and clothing design and all kind of stuff. And so, like, in a year, I would just hope that whatever I'm doing, I'm having fun. And I feel like if I'm having fun with it, I can help help other people. I can make money. I can do whatever. And I just feel like having a truthful experience that's true for me is really what matters most now. Yeah.
I like that. And I can tell you just, time. I don't like the, like, idea that, like, time heals, because I think that's bullshit. Like, I think that that's different for everybody. And I've experienced this conversation a lot recently because people keep asking me if I'm okay, because I keep throwing myself into things. And I think there's an expectation that, I was with a person for 4 years. I nearly committed my entire world to them, almost married them. So how, after almost 8 months after that decision to not go that path anymore, how could you possibly be okay? I've started dating again, meeting new people. It's hard to do in a pandemic, but as best as I can. And a lot of people, like, think that I'm not okay, and that's the reason for me staying busy and whatever. And I actually, like, totally disagree with that, because I feel like everyone processes things differently. Everyone copes differently. And for me, in the time that I shut down for 4 months, I kind of did a lot of what you're talking about. Like, I absolutely did nothing. I didn't even work out a lot. And I can't believe I'm saying that, because it was so, like, I didn't recognize myself. I'm like, but I had the time to, like, take a step back and be like, well, who the fuck are you? So much so that a couple, like, not even a month ago, I was talking to a friend who I don't know that well and have gotten to know much better over the course of the last few months. Cause, like I said earlier, I'm asking better questions and having conversation that's more impactful and profound and, like, whatever. And they said to me, just out of nowhere, they were like, I want to know who the fuck you are, like, to your core. Like, tell me, like, not like the social media person, not the sister, daughter, friend, whatever. And I've brought this up a lot in other conversations with other friends, because I feel like it's an important question that no one asks. And I think had I had that conversation with my significant other, maybe we wouldn't have even made it as long as we did. And that would have been okay. Like, because I never asked him, like, who are you? And I think fundamentally, if I understood that, we wouldn't have been in a relationship as long. And like, to go back to this concept of time, it's like so many people have said to me, why didn't you figure this out sooner? Because we had values that were drastically different. And it was simply because like the context of the situations we were going through over the time that we were dating never made it come to surface. And we probably weren't vulnerable enough with each other to ask the questions that we really needed to ask to be in the relationship that truthfully we probably both want. Because we weren't right for each other. This wasn't a one-sided thing. And I think he sees that now. I just picked up on it sooner. And I'm going back to this concept of time because like, I think that like to take in and process what you just said, I haven't seen you in 3 years, maybe more almost more at this point, going on 4. Even just like the way you talk is very different. And these are all positive things. So take with it what you will.
Thank you.
But also, you are a lot more thoughtful in your word choice, and you're you take a lot longer to talk, like to actually say something. You process what the person's saying first, and I see it in your eyes. Like I see you thinking, and I saw it as soon as we sat down before we started recording the podcast, because we were like catching up about mutual friends and people that we knew. And I could tell like I was giving you a lot of information and you were like trying to work through it. And I wasn't even expecting you to give me a response. Like it was literally just me telling you like, here's what happened in my life. Here are the players that affected both of us. Here's where they are now. And I wasn't even like, I think a lot of people, and I'm bringing this up because I think a lot of people knowing like me and knowing you would have expected us to like, or not even knowing us, actually, I should say like most people having that conversation, it would have been like, oh, let's like gossip about this. And that was literally not the purpose of me saying any of it. It was just literally like, hey, just so you know, XYZ things have happened to me. I'm sure a lot more shit has happened to you. If you want to share it, cool. But if not, I just want you to know that whatever has happened in your life since has probably made a really big impact on you. And even at the time, if you couldn't see, that situation kind of sucked. It was the best thing that ever happened. And it was more of like, not even a validation, but just like a confirmation, because you probably figured it out yourself. You didn't need me to tell you that, but like a confirmation that like there was a plan and it was meant to happen. And to your point earlier, like we're supposed to go through a struggle and we're not supposed to try to fix people's struggles. Like let it happen, let it ride. So
that was really awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah, you saying that was very powerful. I'll probably remember that more than anything about this podcast. So
That's really
thank
cool.
you.
Welcome.
And it is very true.
Yeah.
And same for you, my
Thank
friend.
you. I appreciate that. And I want to ask you, because for me, that ability of what I just described has come from meditation. And I want to know if that's true for you. And I want to know, what does meditation mean to you and what does it look like for you?
For sure. Meditation at this point has, I would almost say like, it's changed my entire relationship with reality. I think that I had like moments of like pure consciousness very early on in life. And so like I was always kind of aware, like I am not like this voice in my brain. I am not like, that's not the essence that I am. But I didn't really know what was going on until about like 24. I really just got interested in it. I was just in the rabbit holes on YouTube and learning and reading a lot of books like the Joe Dispenza. And it started there. Did
someone tell you like, hey, you should meditate or what?
No, I just like, I feel like I just became interested in it because a lot of the people who I want and wanted to be like were into meditation. And so I was like, I just need to learn more about it.
Yeah,
and
like you studied their routine and you
right,
realized
and
it should be in yours.
The human beings who I looked up to were meditating.
Okay.
And so whenever I began to meditate and like find this stillness behind my personality, behind my thoughts, it really just started to like change things for me. And I really had no idea until this year, you know, in the last 2 or 3 years I had been doing it, but really this year, whenever I entered a season of like just being really like life was changing a lot and a lot of my personality began to shed, and it was really like I needed it. And I had to go to that space a lot, because whenever I would come forward into this self that I'm talking to you now, the Chris, I didn't know who this Chris was. And this Chris was changing, was shedding, was evolving, was transforming. was healing, was facing himself, was forgiving himself, was forgiving others, and all this shit. And so, like, whenever I would come forward, it was like the me who I thought I was or wanted to present was like very shaky.
Okay.
And so, like, coming back into that, like, groundedness
Came from meditation.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that. I also think like hearing that from you actually in a lot of ways makes me feel a little bit better about what I said before when I said that I've like dropped some friends and like have had people come in and out of my life, because I think like maybe for me, I'm in the shaky place and like I feel confident in who I am, but I'm shaky in that I'm not sure how others will receive it. But I'm confident in that it doesn't really matter how they'll receive it, because it goes back to the point of earlier of what we said. It's like, if you're going to actually step into this statement and believe it and speak it into existence of like, you don't actually care about what other people think of you, then you're okay with that chapter, with that person closing. And it is what it is. And it's just like, I'll find, like, I'm not going to find someone to replace them, but like, there'll be different people that come into my life for different purposes. And that's
right. And the people who are attracted into your life and what you're doing as a career, like the deeper and deeper you can go on that dive of being like who you truly are, like, you know, these podcasts, you know.
I learned a lot about myself in the last 20 minutes.
You're at peace with however it's received. Somebody's going to say, oh, that's a bunch of bullshit.
Sure.
Somebody But like, if you just are really being who you are, you don't care. It's whenever we try to go into performance mode that we try to like, that we get so like, oh, how will this be perceived? But like, if you just being your real self, you care a lot less.
Yeah. And you know that other people, like, for as many people who are going to receive it and like you said, think it's like a front or fake or whatever, there's going to be someone else that listens to this and is like, shit, I need to take inventory of my life. I need to reevaluate something, or at least that's the hope, right? Even if that doesn't happen, I literally could care less, because like we reconnected in the last hour. I haven't seen you in a long time. That's quality time that we spent together. You gave me some things to think about, to put into practice in my own life. And like, that's cool. So I got something out of it, and hopefully you could say the same.
Me too. Well, even just the fact that you're doing this, you have like your personality has evolved, or I feel like just the real you has come out to the surface. And so that can be sensed. And like hearing you talk about your business plans and hearing you know, wear your life experiences on your sleeve to share, I think it's really beautiful, because like people may have their judgments wherever they hear or watch this or whatever, but like you're going through that shit too. You just don't want nobody to know.
Exactly.
Girl, boy.
Yeah.
So shut up.
But it's so true. It's so true.
All right.
Like, and I think like that means so much to me, because to take it a step further, it's like, I know those people are out there going through it. And so my life's mission, like, and someone asked me this too, like, and it's interesting what you just said, that you feel like my real personality shining through, because the same person made the same comment. It was the same person who asked, who are you? Like, who is Krysta Huber? Like to her deepest point of her being, also said that when we met, they felt as though there was something about me that I was holding back and I was reining in, because I was worried about a perception, something like I was worried about some external factor. And so I couldn't be myself. And I think I didn't even recognize it at the time. And so I was like, kind of like, whoa, you see something in me and I don't even know you like that. Like I literally like haven't even known this person for like a year, like maybe 6 months. And we've only gotten to know each other better. And they've become a really great friend, fantastic business mentor, partner for like a lot of opportunities that we both will have in the future. And it's super cool, because like knew the guy in Charlotte and we like barely interacted. And now I moved to New Jersey and I talk to him daily, which is like, it's funny how small the world is too, right? And like our ability to be that way.
Yeah.
So I think there's just like so much value in that. And like that makes me feel like, okay, I am living out the truth that I want to, but more so, and to my overarching point is like, I can only hope that my mission in life is to like be so upfront about who I am and literally wear my experiences on my sleeve, like you said, to the point where it maybe will spark just one more person to feel the same way. Like I can't even tell you like I think the coolest thing that's happened to me in the last 6 months, I got a message. The first time I ever went on to my Instagram and literally spelled out, broke off my engagement. This is why, here's without all the personal details, but enough that I could drive the point home. I got a message from a woman who lived in Texas. I had no idea who she was. She had 3 little girls. She was married for 16 years. And she found me because basically she said to me that she was watching another woman's podcast who sparked my reasoning for coming out and saying this. So I watched that podcast too. And so that woman, or listened to it. So that woman then shared my story on her page. So she was following this person who is way more famous than any of us. And she was like, I found you. I stumbled upon you. And she was like, I just want you to know that 2 weeks ago, I walked away from my 16-year marriage. I think I've made a really scary decision, but there's something in my gut that's telling me it was right. Today was the worst day of my life. I have no idea who you are, but I just want you to know that somebody meant for me to watch this video. And I hope you realize that I'm so thankful that you had the vulnerability to put that on the internet for everyone to see. Like, that's literally sitting on Google alongside my stupid wedding registry from Crate and Barrel that I can't get the fuck down. So it's just like, you have these 2 different personalities as to like who you might be on the internet. But I just know at the end of the day that I'm like the one I want to be. And I said to her, I was like, that just made my day.
For sure.
Because you're 40 something years old. You have
For
3
sure.
kids, and I could learn a few things from you. And you're telling me you learned something from me. And I said to her, I was like, if there's something that's going to allow you to like hang your hat on the decision you made, you have 3 daughters who now know that they're not supposed to be treated a certain way, and they can have the courage and confidence to walk away from a situation that is no longer serving them. And that's so powerful.
That's very powerful. That's a great story. I mean, just being yourself, you know, and the universe will show you. Yeah. That's beautiful.
Thank you. I appreciate it. All right. So we talked a lot, and I know you got to run, and I want to be respectful of your time. Last thing I do on all of my episodes is a lightning round. So like,
okay, let's go.
45 seconds. I'm just going to throw shit out there.
Okay.
If you have more to expand on, that's cool. Like if you want to say a little bit more and it's not lightning anymore, that's all right. But I'll rapid fire the questions. So here goes. And I don't write these out in advance. They just fly.
All right, let's go.
So, favorite sports team?
Dallas Cowboys.
Really?
Yeah, it hurts. Thanks, Dad.
Oh, that's your dad's fault? All right.
Yes.
I wasn't expecting to say that. Favorite sport to watch?
Basketball. Yeah, always.
Oh, is it your favorite sport to play too?
Not anymore. Probably fishing. Let's count fishing.
Oh, you
grew up fishing.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. You're just an enigma over there. I was not expecting that.
I know, right?
Yeah. Favorite way to meditate? Because there's a lot of ways to do it. Your preferred method?
I like to be outdoors. I like to go into nature and do it. And I would definitely say like transcendental.
Okay. If you could take away one lesson from 2020, what would it be?
Be yourself.
Like that. What current art project are you working on?
I am designing a backdrop for vintage clothes that I'm going to be selling.
Cool.
Yeah.
Where are you collecting your vintage pieces?
So I've been going to like thrift stores all in North and South Carolina.
What's the coolest thrift you found in the last month?
Oh, I found a 1999 6XL Rockaware leather Rockaware coat, and I mean I can't wear it.
What a throwback!
Right, like to fit it, you're gonna have to be like 6'8", 300 pounds, like or more. But it's pretty cool. Yeah, it's pretty.
Where did you find it? What store?
I found it at a store in Rock Hill, I believe, and I just was like, okay, this is pretty
context.
awesome.
Rock Hill is about 20 minutes away from Charlotte, like 20 miles maybe.
Yeah.
It's technically a suburb, but it's in South Carolina. Because if you've never looked at a map, and I didn't until I moved to Charlotte, I didn't know how far west it really was. Wow, that's so cool. What's your favorite medium of art to be working with right now? Because you threw out photography.
Right now, I mean, it changes every day. Right now, I would probably say photography. Okay. Even though I don't feel like I have any real like
chops.
Right. Or like even
Is it self-taught?
Yeah. And even I don't even really like have like a big vision for it. It's just like it's fun some days. Okay. Like photography leads you to cool places in the city, like I just always end up somewhere cool when I feel like taking pictures.
Okay.
Like so it's nice.
You explore.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Like I had no idea that you were going to tell me that you were working on some art. So if you could think back to 16-year-old Chris, 20-year-old Chris, and this is where we're going to end it. What would you say to him that you wish you knew back then? Or like, what would you say to him that you wish you knew back then that maybe would have, and I know you don't regret anything, and I know you don't wish a different trajectory for your life, but maybe you would have gotten, like, if you do truly like where you are now, what do you wish you could have said to him that would have gotten you to this place faster, if that was your goal?
Pay very close attention to how you feel. Pay very close attention to how you feel, like intuitively and on the inside, like, pay more attention to how you feel and less attention to what you're thinking. And that'll bring you what you want a lot faster.
That's really cool. And what skill or mindset or tactic do you think has since allowed you to notice that? So is it journaling, meditation, self-reflection?
All three of those, I would say all three of those are like kind of leading me on a path of like of self-love.
Cool.
Unconditional self-love is what I'm working on. And so I got to keep working on it.
I love
But
it. Let's emphasize the unconditional, bold that shit, because that's so hard.
For sure. And I think like society, our world that we live in will put a lot of like qualifications on you to like give yourself like some approval, and you know, the sooner, as you have mentioned a few times, like the sooner you can just be okay with who you are, you're more free.
So true. Well, Chris, thank you so much. That was
Thank you
awesome.
so much.
I loved it. I feel like we could sit and I think we're going to need to get some cold brew at another time to discuss this a little bit further, but you're a rock star. You always have been. I can't wait to see what else you're going to do with the rest of this year into 2021. I'm excited to follow along your journey and hopefully be a part of it in some capacity. So thanks again for everybody listening to this. We hope you got some value out of it. And last thing, Chris, what is your shameless plug? Like, where do you want to send people? If you're about to launch this vintage situation, tell me where I can get more of that once you're ready to drop it.
Find me on Instagram, Chris Wilson Frequency. Who knows what you'll see by the time you hear this, but I'm pretty sure it'll be fucking dope.
Sweet. Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Have a good rest of your day.